Hi, Elizabeth here. I just wanted to come on and do a quick flip through of the autobiography that we did in the creative writing class that I taught at our homeschooling co-op. I mention it a lot during my flip throughs of the recent months that I have on the channel. And so I just thought, because I talk about it so much, I'd give you a quick little glimpse through the book that we did in class. The kids did a wonderful job, a phenomenal job. They all came out great. So I will hopefully remember to link below the website where I got the idea to do this autobiography. I had all the books, spirally bound, and the covers are, a thick plastic, and the back has is vinyl on the back. And the children were required to make this like a real book. So it contains the cover page with a picture and the title, along with what's it called? The title page and a dedication page and the table of contents. And so I'll try to go through this quickly so that the video isn't forever long. But if you want a more detailed look at it, let me know in the comments below. I titled my book Metamorphosis because that's how I feel about the stage of my life that I'm in right now. I'm forever changing, forever growing, and hopefully I will become a butterfly one day soon. So I could spread my wings and fly. Anyway, we'll get into it. So there's my cover page, and there's the title page, and here's my dedication. So of course I had to dedicate it to my big handsome and my gems. And here's the table of contents. So we had 35 assignments altogether, plus an epilogue. And we did a lot of different types of assignments, anything from writing stories to writing a little bit of poetry to making lists of things to just various assignments. And they were all interesting, I thought, and they were all fun, I thought. And like I said, the kids did a phenomenal job. They were able to interpret it any way they wanted to, so that we had some, really deep philosophical things going on, of self-discovery. We had wonderful memories going on, just all sorts of things. So it was really just a great assignment. I love doing it. I think I might do it some other time as well, in other years. But, so yeah, so there were a bunch of different things that we did, different assignments that we did, and I'll get started. I'm not going to go through every single one. I'll just go through the ones that were kind of my favorites. But, like in the table of contents, like I said, some of the things were just lists, some were stories, some were talking about their favorite room. We did personal metaphors, and then we took some of those metaphors and extended them to explain the metaphors. They did a recipe of what makes them as a person, and they had to actually write it in recipe form. We did stories about telling tales, which was an assignment that dealt with, stories or traditions that they've heard their parents tell or their grandparents tell, and things like that. So that was fun. And unfinished sentences where they had to complete the sentence. And they did a map of life, which was like a visual map of their life from birth, and incorporating their important points in their life up until the present. A day in the life where they had to explain a particular part of their day or a typical day of them, their particular day. We did something called In Other Words, where they picked 10 different quotes. It could have been, anything from famous quotes to Bible verses to things that their grandparents say all the time, whatever the case was. Flashback, that was a story about they had to pick a time that they would either like to go back to because they enjoyed that particular time and they wrote about that, or it could have been a time where they wanted to go back to in order to change the outcome of that particular experience. As time goes by, that was talking about Carpe Diem and seizing the day. They did my own list of lists where they listed a bunch of different things. A list of cheer yourself up that had to do with listing things that you do, when you're down or when you're not feeling well or whatever the case is, to cheer yourself up. They wrote about who they looked up to. They wrote about one medium suitcase was an assignment where if they were leaving home never to come back and they only had one medium suitcase to pack, what would they put in it? So they really had to think about that one. The perfect present, that was an interesting assignment as well. They had to, what's it called? They had to, they had to describe the perfect present for them, but it couldn't be tangible and it couldn't be materialistic. So that was interesting. A memorable event in their lives. They wrote about always say never. They had to pick 3 things that they would never do again. Are you hungry? They had to describe their favorite meal and, in great detail. The examine life, that was about, I think, strengths and weaknesses they had to list. An annual report was something about where they were at in life last year, where they are in life now, and what they plan on doing in the future. They also did something called Who Am I, where they listed literally and figuratively who they were. And then they had a bunch of different free choices, and it could be anything. I picked these things, but they could pick whatever they wanted to. They could put in their own artwork, they could put in music lyrics, they could put in poetry, they could just do whatever they wanted to do. So I'll go through and show you some of the ones that I really enjoyed doing. I enjoy doing all of them, but some of the ones that really stuck out to me. What's in a name? This was one of the first assignments. And they had to do an acrostic where you put the letters of your name going vertically on the left-hand side of the page, and then each letter you use that as a starting point for your phrase or the words that you wanted to include. And so mine said, Elizabeth loves her big handsome and is so proud of her gems, zigging and zagging their way through life, albeit with some semblance of guidance, befuddled at times and amused at others, energized at every new twist and turn. To love and be loved feels like heaven on earth. Willing to do whatever it takes, they are destined for greatness. Live, love, laugh is the best I can hope for. All together we're connected as family evermore. I enjoyed doing that one. This is my likes and dislike lists, so they're really in no particular order except that my likes list, of course, has to begin with big, handsome, and my gems. And then it, just different things, art journaling, things that I like. Conversations with my gems, chick flicks, listening to the cello. And then my dislikes started out with reality TV. I can't stand it. Yes, I admit I used to be, one of those people that watches reality TV, but I do not anymore. And of course, if you like it, you like it. That's great and that's fine. I have enough reality in my own life, so I don't need to watch other people's reality. I don't like exercising. I don't like shopping. I just all the things I don't like, and especially I don't like my chin whisker. I do not like it. And then the sensory experience, I really like this one because they had to do a story about a sensory experience, obviously. But what that means is that if when you smell something that instantly takes you back to a specific time or a specific experience, or if you hear a song and it takes you back to something, for instance, with smells, if I smell mothballs, I think of my great grandmother and her house and her furniture because, you know, she smelled like mothballs. But it's a good thing, though, because it reminds me, you know, I happen to like the smell of mothballs, possibly because it reminds me of my great-grandmother. Um, you know, when I hear the song, the Robin Hood song by Bryan Adams, that was my husband's and my wedding song. So whenever I hear it, it just takes me instantly back to my wedding. So that's what this assignment was all about, is taking a sensory experience and talking about what it reminded you of. And so in this story, I talked about a Christmas many years ago with my family when I was young, and my father had bought my mother a bottle of opium perfume. And I just love the smell of opium perfume. I do not wear it myself. I have another perfume that my husband likes me to wear, and so that's kind of my signature scent, I guess. But I do love opium because this particular Christmas, my father, among other things, had bought my mother a bottle of opium perfume. And she used to wear it all the time, and so every time I smell that lovely cinnamony, spicy smell, it reminds me of my mother. And my mother passed away in 2012, so I love that smell. And my husband bought me a bottle of opium perfume. And so yeah, every time I get a chance to sniff my opium, it reminds me of my mom. And of course, I'm talking about the perfume. So that was a fun and a fun exercise, and you know, just a great memory to hold on to about my mother. And then this one here is actually like probably my favorite assignment. We were supposed to take a quality and basically personify it. So the quality could be either negative or positive. It didn't matter. I did give the kids a list, a jumping off point, but they could really pick whatever they wanted. So in other words, like if you picked happiness, you would write about what happiness looked like, if happiness was a girl or a boy, a woman or a man, and you know what they would wear, what they would do, their actions, their behaviors, all those types of things. So I wrote about hope. And I wrote, Hope wears a beautiful flowing gown in a soft hue of jade. She is youthful as she skips through the flowery meadows, the flora bursting with every color imaginable. She bends ever so slightly, ever so gracefully, to pluck a lovely daisy and place it behind her ear. She sees everything through rose-colored glasses. To her, all is attainable. To her, anything is possible. Hope wears a perpetual smile, and her eyes are always dancing. She has an optimistic attitude and has every reason to expect positive outcomes. She draws her power from a deep trust in God. Hope sees obstacles as opportunities for learning and growing. She discovers what can be done and never dwells on what cannot be done. At times she might feel helpless, but she shall never be hopeless. When the world says give up, she whispers, try one more time. And then I put hope changes everything down here. I really had a fun time with that. I really enjoyed it. Another one was flashback that I did, and that was an assignment where if you could relive a day, either positive or negative. So if you could relive a day that was positive and you know you wanted to relive it because it was so great, then fine. And if you wanted to relive a day that was more negative and you could actually change what happened and change the outcome, they were to explain that. So I chose to flashback to March 20th, 1988. That was the day my husband took me on our first date. He was 21 and I was 18, and we went to a Richard Marx concert at our local zoo. And so when I was writing this assignment, I actually looked through one of his old photo albums and found the ticket that we actually had way back when we went to that. So that was really fun to remember that time. And then another assignment that I really enjoyed that brought back fond memories was One Medium Suitcase. If you could leave home and never return, what would you take with you? That could only fit into the medium suitcase. So, you know, of course you put the things that are important to you. And then at the end I put, I must have one of my one of my husband's soft, worn, cologne-soaked t-shirts, because when my kids were younger and my husband would go on business trips, and or the kids and I would go somewhere to visit family or whatnot, what we would do is we would take one of his really soft, worn shirts, and we would take the cologne of our choosing from his cologne stash, and we would just douse the shirt in his cologne. And at night we would sleep with the shirts, and so it just felt like it was him right next to us. So we just always did that, and I love that memory, and it was a fun assignment to do. Another assignment was the memorable event, and we had to write about something that we actually had like a ticket to, or a bulletin to, or something like that, a recent memorable event. And so I wrote about my daughter's graduation and going to her graduation ceremony and how proud I was of her, and actually proud of myself because I didn't boo-hoo through the whole thing. I mean, I cried through the whole thing, but I wasn't like terribly embarrassing, thank goodness. All I could think about was, my baby girls growing up way too fast, and it was just, all the things you think about, when you see your child walking down the aisle, and to graduate. And we had homeschooled our kids, and so, of course we had, an important place in their education. And so it was just, a great, memorable event to watch her graduate. And like they do in our homeschool group, they have a slideshow for each of the graduates. And so her slideshow was to the song Forever Young by Rod Stewart. And so, yeah, it was memorable. There's my baby girl at her kindergarten graduation. And then here she is in her beautiful senior graduation picture. And this is all of us at her graduation. And it was so sweet. I had seen on Facebook, which she doesn't really get on that much, but I had seen on Facebook this day, she wrote, "I'm blessed beyond belief with family, friends, and everything I could ever need or want. But this year, I'm most thankful for my mom and daddy. They've given me everything from a love of education to a lifetime of advice and wisdom. I am forever grateful." So that was really sweet and memorable as well. And another memorable event was just how beautiful she looked on her senior prom night. And then she wrote the most beautiful thing. It was just so touching about this day and, her prom night. And she wrote, "As beautiful as I felt last night, senior prom, the true beauty is the woman who has been beside me through it all." There's a quote that I read a few weeks back that says, "All that I am or ever hope to be I owe to my mother. Nothing seems to express my feelings and gratitude toward her like that quote. I truly owe everything I am to her, from obvious things such as my education and extensive vocabulary to little things like my desire to teach others and the way that I react to situations. We are so different, yet the older I get, I find myself striving to be more like her. Though I graduate high school this year and will no longer be her student, I'm always learning from her, and I wouldn't have it any other way. She's my role model, my best friend, but most importantly, and above all else, she is my mother. I love you." And so I wrote, "I'm one proud mama." I've got the sweetest kids. And then the last part of the book was free choices. So I had, on this page, I just did the songs that are meaningful, that I pick for my husband and my two children, that just, when I hear them, they remind me of them. So sensory experience. I did a currently list, back then, what I was currently reading, listening to, and whatnot. And then I did 7 things that no one knows about me, but they do now. And I've been known to eat Easy Mac at 2 a.m. I wear more masks than a Broadway play, which it's not a negative connotation. Like I'm not fake or anything like that. It's just that it's more like the mask of everything's fine when it's really not. So, I mean, as far as my health goes. And I've always wondered what my life would have been like had I been born in a different country or a different time period. Not that I don't love my life. I love my life. I have a wonderful life. I have a wonderful husband with wonderful children, and I wouldn't want it any other way. But I've just, it gets you thinking, like, what if I was born in the Victorian era, or what if I was born in the Pioneer era, or just different, or medieval times, whatever, or how my life would have been different had I been born in the UK, or had I been born, in China or Turkey or any other country. I don't know. Sometimes I just think about those things. And then I cry when I see Folgers and Publix holiday commercials. And yes, my family, razzes me about it all the time. Even though I'd like to think I'm outspoken, I keep bunches inside. I put way too much pressure on my gems, that's for sure. And I have way too many bad habits that I will refrain from mentioning here. So now you know. And these are my Pandora channels, anything from country music to All About That Bass to AC/DC, which my son added, to Frank Sinatra, to 80s love songs, to Celtic music, to Phantom of the Opera music, to Creed, just so many different things. I love all kinds of music. And then this free choice I did, I put a piece of my art in here that is a collage piece inspired by Packard Eye here on YouTube. And if I remember, I'll put her link in the bottom. I love her collage work. She's such an inspiring artist. So that was that. And this was a page on words that describe the crappiness of having dysautonomia. So after that ugly page, I decided to put a page of inspiration, because we all need to be inspired and we all need to think positive thoughts and remember the good things in life. So I put that there. And then the last page is the epilogue, and the students were required to write it in third person, and so they actually had to write about the author of the book, which was themselves, and they had to reference some of the assignments that they did in their epilogue. So I wrote, the woman who wrote Metamorphosis is a woman that is changing all the time. Though she doesn't enjoy change, she must adjust as she continues to struggle and deal with chronic illness. She is a strong believer in the hope she describes in a quality personality. Her family is most important, as shown in one of her free choice pages about songs, with each song having special meaning for those closest to her. Devoted to her big handsome with all that is within her, and loving his soft, worn, cologne-doused t-shirts as written about in one medium suitcase. Not liking her chin whisker, along with many other things in her likes and dislikes list, she is a thankful person that relies on the grace and mercy of her Creator, as well as inspiration and positive thinking. Creating art is her outlet, whether it's writing in her illustrated journal, painting, or making a collage similar to Free Choice Just Breathe. You're welcome to take a glimpse into this complicated, although rather simple life of this young woman, of this woman. May you be blessed today and always. And then I just put a quote down here by Henry Thoreau. Things do not change, we do. And there you have it. There is the autobiography that we did in class, in our homeschooling creative writing class that I taught this past year, and that you've heard so much about in my Fibonacci Flips. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too long. And I will hopefully remember to post the link down below of the teacher's website where I got the idea to do the autobiography assignments. And I will catch you on the next flip.